All right. So, what were your first impressions when you saw this deck? What was your like just your basic general overall thoughts when you first took a look at it?
So when I first saw it, I had never done like a Monarch theme, so I was kind of interested in
Uh,
doing that.
right.
And then when I saw it, I thought there was like the deck was like pulling in
Yeah.
two different directions
Uh-huh.
because he wanted a night theme, but that. But I felt that they were too clashing to really work together, and so those were my thoughts. And I saw he had Syr Gwyn as uh, part of his like Knights package, and
Uh-huh.
he had a few equipment. I was like, oh, why not just go for a Knights tribal equipment theme?
Yeah.
Um, and so that's what I did.
Right. So I think as we're looking at the deck here, we can let's see. Okay, somebody wants dark mode. All right, is that better? All right. So I think so. What you're talking about, if you look mainly in the enchantment list, you see he's got all three courts, um,
Yeah,
like Marchesa's Decree. Let's see, and he's also kind of got a little bit of a pillow fort package too, like with the authority of the
yeah.
consoles. Um,
Hmm.
what else? Sphere of safety, things like that. I mean, all those are really good in a Queen Marchesa deck. I had a Queen Marchesa deck,
Yeah.
and I kind of built it that way. I ended up taking it apart because it just kind of wasn't really my style. Um, one thing I meant to do. Let's go and actually take a look at the workshop first before we get too much further into this. Let me pull it up here. Um, all right, so this is workshop 119. And he's and I think probably the reason you and I both felt like it was best to lean into the night theme is because that's that was the first line in his deck strategy. He says he's looking to tune up the night tribal
Yeah.
deck and help streamline it a little bit. He says he doesn't have a lot of clear win cons, and says he's trying to use um, his general to get card advantage, and then use the knights and the aggressive cards in the late game to try to win. Um, so
Yeah. So like when I was like adding cards and I made sure to add in a bunch of like a couple more win conditions attached to equipment. And
uh,
then also Syr Gwyn is also a kind of a card draw engine in itself.
yep,
So I thought that just switching to that would be probably better.
yeah. Syr Gwyn's also, I mean, it's an expensive card, but if you can get it to stick and keep it around, it's a pretty good beater. I mean,
Mhm.
vigilance, and menace. That's not the best combination of combat abilities, but those are no joke. Like you get some equipment on Sir Gwyn and get it pretty big, and it's got
Yeah,
menace, and it's gonna be tough to deal with, and it can protect you. So
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
that's what I ended up doing. I ended up switching to Sir Gwyn too. Um, but any other general thoughts that you had about the deck, about his or their build before we start looking at the tuned versions? Any other things that were missing from the deck, or maybe you thought the deck might
I
need?
thought the I thought that the land base for the deck was a little lacking.
Hmm.
There was a lot of tap lands, like the Lorehold or the Strixhaven campuses,
Yep.
um, and just like a bunch of tap lands and stuff.
Yep.
So I made sure to set aside some of the budget just for lands that could come in untapped and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, I'm looking at some of the main offenders are like the new Modern Horizons indestructible tapped lands. I guess if your meta is land destruction heavy, I guess those would be good. But he's got
Yeah,
Windscarred Crag. He's got Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds, which those are good for helping you fix your colors. But those always come into play tapped.
yeah, and the
Um,
campuses.
Yep, the campuses, the snarls,
Yeah.
while they can't the snarls can come in untapped, but you have to have, a basic land in your hand for them to come into play tapped, and this deck has about what
Yeah. I ended up.
about 14 basics.
I
So
think I ended up adding. Yeah, I think I ended up adding 2 of the snarls because I don't think I had that much room or budget room left for anything else.
okay.
Um, where? Oh yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at your build. One thing, if you would, for me, real quick, your Google Docs for your tuning notes. Can you go in and share those and make it shareable by anyone that has the link? I'm getting a request denied when I try to go to it.
Yes. Sorry about that. Mm,
So let's take a look at your tuned build. Okay, this is the first time I've seen it, so it looks like you cut 28 cards. That's about how many I cut. Normally, what I like to do is I like to have a my ad category. I like to have that outside the deck as well. So so that way over here I've got an ad and a cut, because what I like to do is when I add cards, I like to keep
mhm.
track of how much ramp and how much card draw and all that stuff I have. You can see in my build here. See, I actually cut and added 39 cards,
Yeah.
but see, I've got add and cut over here. And so the cards that I add are in two places. They're here in the deck, but they're also here in the ad list. And that also helps me keep track of my budget. So here, I came in $6 under
Mhm.
budget for the ad list. So what we'll do is we'll start adding this stuff back. Axe Guard Armory, that's a good one. I didn't add that. I didn't have room for it. I was trying to jam a lot of dual lands, but that is a good addition. I like Axe Guard Armory. That's a good card. For that equipment. The Pain lands are awesome. That's a good addition. I added those also. Because
I love the pain lands.
oh, they're great for aggro decks because they don't slow you down tempo
Mhm.
wise. And then, a lot of times they don't end up hurting you that much because later in the game you've got other
Yeah, and then
colors.
they come in tapped, and if you don't need the color, you can just tap it for colorless.
Yep, exactly. And that's one thing you wanna pay attention to with aggro decks is tempo loss. You don't want
Yeah.
you don't want to just start getting aggressive when everyone else has built up a lot of resources and can react to you. Path of Ancestry is a great addition. I added that one too. I also added a Vorpal Sword because that'll help close out games late in the game when you've got Syr Gwyn out and you can just suit up a Vorpal Sword on something like Syr
Yeah.
Gwyn that's hard to block. You added some more ramp, which this deck desperately needed.
Oh yeah, definitely.
When you've got a commander that's a 6 mana, it's not this deck.
Mhm.
It's not this deck. Doesn't run on the commander, or isn't totally based around the commander, but it's a lot better when the commander's out. So,
But yeah, a lot easier to kill people when your commander is out.
yep, yep. I like a lot of your additions. The grafted exoskeleton will help. Hack on. I forgot about him.
Oh, I was looking at EDH Rec, and I saw him, and I was like, this is
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, it is perfect. It gives you, he's 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 a knight, and you can get him out early, but also late game he gives you some staying power.
Hmm.
I like it. I completely forgot about him. That's a good call. Uh, Phyrexian Crusader, so good. Steel
Hmm.
Paladin. Do we have a card draw category?
I did not add a card category.
All right. Well, we will.
Well,
If you want to mute the stream, that'll keep us from getting that echo.
yeah. Well, my Wi-Fi is a bit wonky, so it's still loading for me.
Oh, okay. All right. Right now. I'm going through your ads and I'm just adding them back into the deck. So it looks like you ended up with uh 33 lands. Does that sound right? Total.
Yep, I think so.
All right. So 33 lands, 26 knights. That's a good number of creatures. Uh, five.
I don't think I.
Good.
Oh, I didn't add any lands. I just took out 7 lands and added in 7.
Okay. All right. So it looks pretty good. 33 lands with a 6 mana commander is a little low for me. I think 35 is
Hmm.
probably as low as I would go. I think that's what I ended up with. Um, and not you got 9 ramp spells. Um, that's a little bit low for a 6 mana commander too, and with having 33 lands.
I think
Good.
in the deck though, there's also Sword of Hearth and Home and Sword of the Animist, which I guess you could count Sword of Hearth and Home um, as ramp, and so as well as Sword of the Animist.
You could, but for the ramp category and stuff that I want to call ramp, I want to have things that I can count on that are reliable and consistent, that are just ramp. Because with sort of the animus, if you don't, if you don't get lucky and draw a creature, or you have a creature and you have the sort of the animus, but there's nobody good to attack, or somebody kills one of your creatures, then you're not really ramping. But it's like if you play an
Yeah,
arcane signet, you have ramped. That's end of story. Same thing with Sword of Hearth and Home. Sword of Hearth and Home is a scary
yeah,
card. Nobody wants you to have that. So that could easily be the target of an artifact removal spell where you know not many people are going to use a dedicated targeted removal spell on a Boros Signet. You know, so while those are very good cards and I like them in the deck, I can't really count them as ramp. So we would probably need to cut.
yeah. I get it.
We could leave those in, but we'd probably need to cut, maybe something like Stoneforge Masterwork or something like that, or Masterwork of Ingenuity. A
Mhm.
couple of the more like higher variance cards, and get some more consistency. Because really,
Yeah,
aggro decks need consistency and card draw more than any other type, because aggressive decks, they get targeted with removal. They get all their stuff blown up. So, or
hmm,
people have to, or you're going to kill them. So, you have to be able to reload, and you have to be able to consistently, apply pressure and threats. So whereas like a control deck or like a more mid-range deck can take its time kind of setting up its board position and sculpting its hand and searching for the right things it needs. But an aggro deck needs to get down to business and do it as soon as possible. So you want to be consistent, and
Yeah.
you want to have gas. So um, let's switch over and take a look at my version of the deck. If you don't have the stream up yet, you can post it in Workshop 119, and you can pull it up and take a look at it.
Yeah, that would be good. This is not loaded yet.
Just let me know when you've got my build up.
All right, I got it up.
So first thing we can look at is the lands. Just like you, I added the pain lands, but I used a lot of my budget on the Shocklands, Godless Shrine.
Yeah,
I added Godless.
I thought about using those, but I don't know. I think I just went more into the equipment.
Yeah, yeah. I just think the Shocklands are such a good investment. I know they're expensive, and I know there are other dual lands that kind of do the same thing. But for an aggro deck, being able to pay 2 life to be 1 turn ahead on playing a creature or equipping a creature with something, or like it's just so valuable.
Yeah.
So I mean, I put in $18 towards a Godless Shrine. What else did I add? I don't I don't know if I don't think I added all 3. Yeah, I didn't add the red white one with those. I added the the lands from Commander Legends, like spectator seating, the ones if you have 2 or more opponents. So I added spectator seating. Did I add luxury suite? I don't think I added that one. That one was really expensive. I left the campuses
Yeah, that one
in
was.
just for the extra mana fixing, and they could help you late game if you get kind of flooded. So, but I added. Let's see what I added. Added the Painlands. I added the Blight Step pathway. Added the Canyon
That
Slow.
one's pretty good.
Smoldering Marsh. Just as many dual lands as I could that could come into play untapped. So the Vault of Champions, and I added the Temple of Malice to the red black land. When you're an architect, you can hit stats and look at the stats. And I don't know if you've done this before, but you can hit stats and it'll show you your mana setup. It's got the little pie chart wheel, and the inner is your mana production and the outer is your mana costs. On this deck, we can see most of the deck is black and white, and it's got 12 red pips in it. But our mana production is pretty even, which is good for a 3-color deck. You want to be sure to be able to cast all your spells. So I'm like you. I fixed up the mana base. Let's see, did I add? I don't think did I add any basics? No, look like I added any basics. Just more dual lands that could come into play, untapped. And then I really went hard on the ramp. I went up to 12. So I added the rest of the talismans, a solemn simulacrum because he can wear a piece of equipment. Added Rakdos Signet.
Yeah.
And I added 2 3 mana ramp cards. I like Coalition Relic because you can put a charge counter on it and it can basically ramp you extra for 1 turn. So that could help you get Syr Gwyn out, because if you play that on turn 3, put a counter on it. Turn 4, you can play a land, and then on turn 4, you can have Syr Gwyn out, or with Coalition Relic, as long as you hit your 4th land drop.
Mhm.
So, and then Chromatic Lantern, just for mana fixing. That could have been something else. That I could have gone something a little more greedy, like a Worn Power Stone or something like that makes more mana. But I just decided to make sure we could cast all of our colors. And card draw, the deck was really lacking on card draw. So I think I added all 9 of these card draw cards in that category, except for Vanquisher's Banner. I think Vanquisher's Banner was the only one that wasn't already in the deck. But stuff like Valakut Awakening, that could be really helpful if you've gotten mana flooded, or you've got a bunch of expensive cards that you can't cast and you just need land drops.
Yeah.
And it's also a land drop itself. So I guess technically this deck has 36 lands if you count the Valakut Awakening. But Tome of Legends, that's another good. It's a cheap card you can get down early, and then once you cast Syr Gwyn, and you're gonna want to be attacking with Syr Gwyn, so hopefully that can draw you cards later. Seize the Spoils. That's another one I like, just to get maybe an expensive card out of your hand, or a land you don't need, and it kind of ramps you a little bit. So it could probably be substituted maybe for another black draw spell, just a raw draw spell,
Yeah.
so you don't have to discard. But I like that it ramps you. So and then Read the Bones is just a classic, great card draw spell. Same thing as Night's Whisper. Maze Mind Tome, that's another cheap card you can get down early, and you can use it to scry. If you don't have the mana, if you're kind of tied up on mana, and you can use it to smooth out your draws, but you can also draw cards with it. Mask of Memory is just a really good equipment. It helps you get through your deck faster and find either more threats or more answers. And it's an equipment, so it kind of plays with the theme. And Ambition's Cost is just a good raw card draw spell. Draw 3 cards for 4 mana. They're such a good deal. So one thing in decks like this is you've got to have gas. People are gonna have sweepers. People are gonna kill your creatures. They're gonna blow your stuff up. So you got to be able to reload. And then let's see. For the tribal theme, I don't think I added anything for the tribal theme. Just have the Icon of Ancestry, the Knight's Charge, and the Circle of Loyalty. And then Boros Charm's an absolute champ. That's a must in just about any aggressive deck that can run it. It'll save your stuff from.
I love that card. It's such a good card.
Say that one more time.
So I just love the cards. It's very versatile.
Yeah.
Put it in all my red-white decks.
Absolutely. Well, in this one, I mean, it can be a pretty nasty offensive weapon too if you've got Syr Gwyn equipped with something, and you kill somebody really quick. Speaking of equipping with Syr Gwyn, added the Vorpal Sword just like you did. I think that's perfect for this deck. We added a Sword of the Animist. We've got a Swiftfoot Boots. The Sigil of Valeron, I kept that in there. I added a Maul of the Skyclaves, just because it's a cheap equipment, and when you play it, it automatically equips to something, so you kind of save on the cost initially, and then later in the game, if you've got it out and you've got Syr Gwyn out, you can just equip it for free. That's one of the big downsides of the Maul of the Skyclaves is the equip cost, but with your commander, you kind of get around that, and if you slap it on Syr Gwyn, I mean that's a 7/7 flying vigilance menace first striking creature. But like it's just that's going to be a very difficult creature to block, and it's going to be one of the best blockers ever. So
yeah.
So I liked Maul the Skyclaves. And then Colossus Hammer, we both added that. That like that's kind of the same thing. It costs 8 to equip, but with Syr Gwyn out,
Just a 1 mana 10/10 buff.
Yep, that seems like a good deal. And Black Blade
Nothing better than
Reforge. I think you added that too, didn't you?
I did.
Yep. Just another way to close out games with your commander. You know, just make it huge and smack somebody in the face. Um, I added Argentum armor just because one of the big downsides of it is its equip cost, but I figured, you know, that it kind of served two purposes. It made Syr Gwyn big enough to kill somebody in 2 hits, and also it was just good removal. So,
I think I actually wanted to add Argentum armor to my build, but I don't think I'd ever did.
uh, and then so looking at removal, um, I cut I cut the sweepers, and I cut stuff like Crackling Doom. I cut Fracture
Mm-hmm.
because it's a little too narrow. I cut Fracture for Bedevil. I think Bedevil's a little more versatile because it can take out a creature. It can't take out enchantments, but you know you can't kill everything. Um, I added a Ruinous Ultimatum because that's just Ruinous Ultimatum is just such a beating. If you have the colors for it, you got to run it. Just a one-sided
Yeah.
board wipe can just it can just end the game. Um, and then I added a Baleful Mastery because it's really versatile and it can be cheap. You know, you can cast it for a black and a colorless to exile a problem creature or a planeswalker. And I put Chroma's Vengeance in here just as kind of a panic button where if you're really behind and
Yeah.
somebody else has a ridiculous board, or a couple people have a ridiculous board and you're just behind and overwhelmed, you've got at least one reset panic button in the deck, but it cycles for 3. If you don't, if you're ahead, you're in a good spot and you need to draw some more gas, just cycle it. So and
Yep.
then
I like cards like that.
mhm. And then I added a generous gift, just because it's just a versatile kill whatever you need to kill. Because we're not running a lot of removal because we want to be an aggressive deck. So our removal needs to be very very surgical, but also very very flexible. Our removal needs to be able to
Yeah.
hit whatever we need to hit. And that's another reason I added Rakdos Charm. It's kind of one of my favorites, just like Boros Charm. It can exile a graveyard, destroy an artifact, or there's some cases where someone's had like a billion squirrel tokens or something, and I just play Rakdos Charm and kill them.
Kill them in the process too.
Yep. And I
I
don't.
like the uh, graveyard hate on Rakdos Charm because there's nothing better than exiling a Scarab God's graveyard
Yep.
when they're about to use them.
Yep. For 2 mana at instant speed, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I don't think I actually added any knights. Like that's one thing that I didn't really look too much into. You did, and you found some
Mm-hmm.
good ones, especially with Hakon. Like he should definitely be in the deck, without a doubt. So yeah, I would have to revise my list and go back and find a spot for him for sure. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
there was just a bunch of knights that didn't really do enough. Like I think he had Sylvia Brightspear in the deck, and it's a knight, but like you're only playing one dragon. So, and then I didn't take Josu Vess out, but because it's like it could be a potential win con, but I can
absolutely.
definitely see how definitely see how his kicker cost may be a huge hurdle to overcome.
I had a hard time cutting it. I struggled with that one. I think and for that reason, you're right. Late in the game when you're out of gas and you don't really have a way to kind of get back in the game. What an awesome card to top deck that would be, huh? You know, it's like, okay, well, I'm back in the game now. So yeah, Josu Vest would be a good card to find a spot for, um, and just try it out. I mean, and still, I mean, a 4/5 menace for 4 mana is not a bad deal, especially in a deck where you've got
Yeah.
equipment, and you've got a lot more equipment than I do. So in your build, it's probably even better. You know,
Yeah.
so
Um. Yeah, I just try it with the knights though. I try to cut all the ones that were like. I try to go for a more, I guess, global effects on the knight, like gain keyword or something. I cut just to allow, I guess, more global effects.
yeah, yeah, more like more board impact. Well, let's see. Nova's World is asking about Herald's Horn. Let's take a look at it. Let's see. Herald's Horn. Let's see. As Herald's Horn enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creature spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. That's pretty solid. It's kind of
It is pretty.
yeah, it's kind of pseudo ramp. And yeah, it kind of does a little bit of everything. It can be kind of it could be ramp and it could be card draw. It just kind of depends on depends on your luck.
Yeah.
That's one of the downsides. Let's see how much there wasn't a price on that. So
It's like $10 or something around that.
it's not cheap. Yeah. So honestly, with the budget, if we had an infinite budget, it would be worth slotting in and trying out. But I think we could do a lot better with $10. I would rather have something that definitely was a ramp spell or something that was definitely a good card draw spell. You know what I mean? And Herald's Horn is kind of it could be one, it could be the other, it could be both. It could be great, but it's too dependent on what's in your hand and what's on the top of your library. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, having 24 knights in the deck, 24 to somewhere around that range, you got a good chance of
It's like yeah. It's around a 1/4
yeah,
chance.
yeah, that's not bad, but it's not great either. And without any top of the library manipulation, it feels like it would be sad times because you could play that and then you if you have a knight in your hand, but it's Knight of the White Orchid, then
Mhm.
it's not helping you. Or
Mhm.
you keep hitting ramp spells for your top card of your library or something. There's a lot of potential to feel bad there. And with my luck, I just feel like it would be
Yeah, honestly.
yeah. It's a good suggestion though. It's a neat card. Um,
I think I have an artifact deck with Mystic Forge,
uh-huh.
and I don't think I've ever once played an artifact spell off of it
Yeah, it sounds like you
because
got the same luck I
there's
do.
just been no artifacts.
Yeah. Okay, let's we can talk about the creatures. Were there any other creatures that you wanted to talk about? Like I said, I didn't really add any. You added.
I
Let's see.
tried. I tried adding more of the adventure cards
Huh?
from Eldraine.
Okay.
I thought those were really cool.
Yeah.
Because like Embrith Shieldbreaker, you destroy target artifact and
Oh
play it
yeah.
later as a knight.
Yep.
I thought those were like really really good.
I think that was our
Although I
Shield
think he
Breaker.
already had all of them in
Yeah.
there,
Yep.
so I just kept all of it in.
Yep. Yeah, I like those too. The
Um,
versatility is great.
I think. Oh yeah, I think I added. I added in. Oh, what's it called? Pure Steel Paladin. I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
called.
Yep.
Just for some extra consistency on the equipment side.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
Phyrexian Crusader is like another win condition.
Yeah, that's one that if I had put a little bit more effort into the creature side of it, that's one I definitely would have added. But uh, the reason I didn't is because I only ended up with let's see, I've got 8 in the equipment spot and 9 counting the Mask of Memory. Well, I guess yeah. So I
Yeah,
only ended up with 9 equipments. I kind of went, you know, I added more card draw and ramp, so I didn't and lands. So I didn't.
yeah,
I wanted to focus on having knights instead of equipments. So my equipment package is kind of, it's not. There's not a lot of them, but the ones I added are like super high impact. Like Black Blade and Argentum armor and stuff like that. So
yeah,
in my build, Pure Steel Paladin probably wouldn't be that good. But in yours, you've got 16 equipments, so it's not a bad
yeah.
addition, and it's kind of a backup to Syr Gwyn. Like it has the same ability
Hmm.
as Syr Gwyn, uh, but if she gets killed or gets too expensive or whatever, that would be a good backup. All right. Anything else you wanted to go over or talk about? Let's see. Nova's World's asking about Guardian of Faith. Is that the one? Let's see. Guardian of Faith. Let's see. 3/2 flash
Guardian
vigilance
of
when it
Faith.
enters the battlefield, any number of target. Wow, that's really good. That would be that would be a nice anti sweeper card, wouldn't it?
Stupid internet.
Yeah. The mana cost is a little prohibitive in a 3-color deck, but I think with all like I know in my build with all that ramp and fixing, uh, probably yours too. I think I think it could get there, but yeah,
Yeah.
any number of other target creatures you control phase out. Yeah, so you could use it to save the
Pretty nice
team.
piece of protection.
Yep, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a decent body with an equipment on it. I think it would probably be better in your build since you've got a lot more equipment to take advantage of the body. Um, I'm not sure if I could find a spot for it
Yeah, I
in
like.
mine.
Okay.
Yeah, well, as far as your deck goes, your build, I would there's some fat that you could trim in here, like Mirage Mirror. Mirage Mirror is a really cool card, and it could be a copy of a creature, but it's a little mana intensive, and it's kind of high variance. It kind of depends on
Yeah.
on the board. It's a really strong card. I love the card, but for consistency purposes, I would probably cut it from this build. Same thing with Deflecting Palm. A Deflecting Palm is a great card. It's saved my butt a lot of times, but just for consistency purposes, since this deck, you know, we it was pulling in two separate directions, but even how we've changed it and kind of leaned into the Night Tribal more, it's still pulling in a couple of different directions because it's trying to be kind of an equipment
Yeah.
deck, but also a tribal deck at the same time. So we really have to trim as much fat as we possibly can, and really sell out to our themes
Mm-hmm.
while also having enough removal and card draw and ramp. So, having high variance cards
Yeah.
like Deflecting Palm and Mirage Mirror and stuff like that, uh, we just end up having to cut those. Boros Charm,
Yeah.
it's a situational card, but it's like, I mean, giving your stuff indestructible or giving a creature double strike, you're always gonna want to do that. Like you're never gonna. There's never gonna be a
Yeah.
bad time to have Boros Charm in your hand. Um, as far as the sweepers go, like Deadly Tempest and Merciless Eviction, that's almost kind of meta dependent. Like if you play against a lot of other creature decks or people that have a lot of fast, aggressive decks in your meta, you can leave those in. But I cut them just to have more of an aggressive focus deck. Just to have more
Mm-hmm.
consistently aggressive strategies. Same thing with Crackling Doom. Those are kind of seasoned to taste cards. If you feel like you need to protect yourself, and people get out ahead of you with creatures a lot, in your play group, then by all means leave the sweepers in. But I cut them just for more card draw. Just to make sure that we're the threat.
Yeah.
And like I said, maybe a couple of the equipments could go for a little bit more card draw in your build.
Yeah.
Um,
16 maybe a little too much.
yeah, because like I said, we're kind of Even though that we took out the whole monarch theme, we're still kind of thinning ourselves out. We're still kind of pulling in a couple of different directions because we want as many knights and we want as much knight synergy as we can, but we also want to take advantage of Syr Gwyn, and we also want to make our knights, powerful enough to have an impact on the game, and that's where the equipments come in. But
Yeah.
if if we're not drawing enough cards or we don't have enough mana to cast our spells and equip our creatures with equipment, then we're not doing anything we're trying to do. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, we have to make some tough cuts just for consistency's sake. And
Hmm.
I did. Yeah, it was so hard to, I cut 39 cards. It was tough. I had to cut stuff like Josu Vess and
Yeah.
Mirage Mirror. I cut Profane Tutor. That was tough. Um, but it's decks can't do everything, and with aggro,
Hmm.
it's so hard to win with aggro decks. In Commander, it's just it's so difficult because you have to have the right combination of cards, and you have to be able to recover from sweepers. You know,
Hmm.
because they're so prevalent. So and even I've got 9 card draw spells in my build, and that's probably not enough. Sometimes this deck's just gonna run out of gas. You know,
I
so
mean, I guess that's the way it is with all decks. Um, I think if I were to like fix this up again, I would probably put more card draw in.
mhm. I think that would
I
be
think besides like the equipment, I think the one other piece of card draw I added was Shram. See, the
yep,
dude, you draw a card whenever equipment enters the battlefield.
yep,
But I think that was it.
yep. I think he's good in your deck because you have 16 equipments. Um,
Hmm.
and he's a creature that can also wear an equipment. He doesn't belong in mine, obviously, because I only had 9 creatures or 9 equipments. So basically,
Yeah,
the difference is in my build, I added a card that I have would be something like a Read the Bones or Night's Whisper instead of SRAM. Like
yeah,
one of the cards that I have just draws you cards. It's not conditional on anything. So it's just that's the major difference between our decks. Yours has twice as many equipments as mine. So
hmm,
I kind of, you know, I kind of gave up a lot of the equipment theme in order to just have more consistent card draw and ramp. But that's
yeah,
that's kind of that's kind of a personal style. That's just the way, I hate when my decks, you know, take a dump and just don't do anything. It's the it's
oh
the
yeah.
it's the worst feeling when it's
It,
like,
it is the worst feeling. Yeah,
when when you don't draw enough land, or like somebody plays a sweeper and blows up your 4 creatures, and then you just you're in top deck mode, and it's just not any fun when your deck isn't doing anything. So I always try to get as much ramp and card draw in my decks as I can. I usually shoot for in every deck. I usually shoot for about 8 to 10 ramp spells, 8 to 10 card draw spells, and then I'll kind of tweak those and adjust them based on what the deck needs. If I think the deck needs more card draw, I'll add more, and blah blah blah. But yeah, it's really
well,
important.
one of the things also is like like my play group, uh, and this probably goes along with how I built the deck, but like my play group doesn't use a lot of removal,
Okay.
so that obviously goes into like why I don't have as much.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's just a philosophy that I can add in more cards that fit
Yeah.
our theme
Right. You can be
without.
greedier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It definitely depends on what and who you're playing against. That's a big part of it. same thing like I said with the sweepers. If you're in a very aggressive meta game and people get out on top of you before you have a chance to do anything, have sweepers is a good way to fix that. So I guess the way I build, since I try to add so much ramp and card draw, is just so that the deck can kind of be good against just about anything. If people aren't playing a lot of removal, then my card draw is just drawing more gas, and I've got more resources than everybody. If and then if people are playing a lot of removal, I'm refilling my hand and I can rebuild better because I have more card draw. So it's just, in my opinion, it's just never bad to have plenty of card draw. Unless that's all you're
Yeah.
drawing. If all you're drawing is your card draw, that's annoying. But still, it can still help you draw into other things. So
Yeah.
and then with ramp, it's Magic's a resource game. Usually whoever has the most resources wins. It's just how it goes. And there's politics and EDH and stuff, which makes it more interesting. But still, whoever can cast the most cards usually ends up winning.
I mean, I think I heard this on an episode of Game Nights, but the two most powerful things you can do in Magic is draw cards and get more lands into play.
Yep.
And ramp.
Yep. That is, I believe it. I believe it. And it's that's one of the things that a lot of newer players miss. And when I first started building EDH decks, that was my biggest problem. Was I wanted all my decks to do everything, and I wanted to put all the cool cards in there. I'd have a stack of 100 150 cards and be like, okay, I gotta cut 50. Like, you
Painful process.
yep. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make now is, especially newer players, is they just go on EDH rec and they see, okay, well, I got to run all these cards and I got to run all these cards and I got to run all these cards. But the ramp people run is so varied and different. It usually doesn't show up on EDH rec that this deck usually runs 10 ramp cards or something like that. So people forget about the meat and potatoes, basically. And,
Yeah.
like,
I think that's like one of the reasons why cards are getting so expensive, or at least here in America.
Yeah, yeah. EDH rec is good for showing you powerful synergies and what's good in the deck, in quotes, and helping you see maybe if there's something you missed or something like that. But I would encourage.
I don't think it's like the whole.
Yeah, no, it's not the end all be all, and I would encourage someone, if they were building their first EDH deck, to use Scryfall. If you've got if you're building a Knight tribal deck, go to Scryfall and just type in Knight, the creature type Knight, and just it'll take you a while, but look at every Knight there is, and look at which ones would be good in your deck, which ones wouldn't. Make a list, and just take the longer approach instead of just looking at EDH rec and saying, okay, well, I'm going to run this and this and this and this and this. It doesn't help you understand why those cards are in the deck. It just kind of tells you what to run, Whereas if you have to find the cards yourself,
that's why I like looking at.
Go ahead.
I like looking at Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at Reddit, people, there are people's suggestions and the reasoning behind people's decks. It's just like a place where you can find pretty much everything. There's always something that you've missed, or someone will suggest something like, "Oh, I've never heard of that before."
Yep. That's
So I like using Reddit.
Yeah, that's a really good resource, and one of the reasons I created DeckTuner is because um, even using Reddit, like you said, it's a good place to find things that, oh, well, oh yeah, I missed that card, or oh, I didn't think about that card. It's awesome for that. But also, Reddit's not the best for, people don't always come in and say, hey, you only have 3 ramp cards and your commander costs 6 mana, like
Oh yeah,
you might, you might,
that's I've got some of those messages kind of annoying.
right. So that's kind of the reason I created DeckTuner so that somebody could create a workshop and an experienced EDH player could come in and say, hey, this deck needs some card draw and this deck needs more ramp. And, it's kind of more of a custom, tailored experience as opposed to just saying, hey,
Hmm.
here's my deck. What do you think I should add? And people are like, you should cut this and you should add that and you should cut this and add that. Well, that still doesn't help you get to, a good tuned functioning deck. It just says, oh, well, I should add these cards. And not many people say, well, you
Yeah,
should cut these 2 cards and add these 2 cards and then explain to you why, you know. So um yeah,
yeah,
Red's
because I know when I've been using DeckTuner, I think I've used DeckTuner for 3 of my decks so far,
uh-huh.
and it's been an amazing help.
Mhm.
Like on my Kaikar Spellslinger deck, uh, like just eyes opened wide to so many problems that I didn't realize before, and just new cards, interesting synergies. It's been a like an amazing service.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we have too is the brew pub. To me, that
Hmm.
it's not the same as creating a Reddit post because your Reddit post obviously is just going to be all about your deck. But the brew pub is also a good place to say, hey, did I miss anything, or does anybody have any ideas for this? I've noticed a lot of people have posted workshops that are really tuned decks. Like I've I'll pull one up and look at
Yeah,
it and say, there's not really anything I can do with this. It's really really tuned. Uh, so usually in that case, I just say, hey, it looks like this deck's really tuned, and you've posted it just to see if you kind of missed anything or that there's some kind of interaction that you missed. Why don't you throw that up in the brew pub instead? Like you're gonna get a lot more eyes on it. A lot more people are gonna see it, and you have a better chance of someone letting you know about an interaction or something that you know about. Because if you just create a workshop, you may only have one tuner look at it, and sure, that one tuner might know of a card or some interaction that you missed, but they might not. You know, so
yeah,
it's always a good idea to throw your deck in the brew pub too, and just kind of see what everybody has to say about it. But yeah. But anyway, well, I guess we'll wrap this up. I had fun talking about
right.
this Queen
I did.
Marchesa deck that we changed into Syr Gwyn.
Ooh.
You cut 30 cards, I cut 40. We did a real hatchet job on this one, but you know, I think based on what the pilot asked for and just for consistency and for the sake of focus, I think we accomplished the goal. I think both versions of the deck will be a lot more focused and more consistent and win more games. All right. Well, I guess that's it for training day number 1. Well, looks like we only had one person in the chat, so I guess Nova's World gets a free month of Nitro. Congratulations, Nova's
I think
World,
there
if you're
was
still watching.
I think there was like 5 people watching at one point.
Oh, okay. Well, I said you had to comment in the stream. So sorry, I guess I should have
Oh,
I guess I should have announced that while we were on stream. It was in the announcements. So another reason to make sure you have the ping roll. If you go to you go to the Rolls channel and hit the little bell, you'll get notified.
I should have.
Whenever we have an event or an announcement or something like that. So, all right.
Definitely.
Thanks a lot, Nice Mills. It's good having you. Have a good night.
All right, good. You too.